So the Rotary Foundation trustees and the International Board of Directors both unanimously approved adding environmental sustainability as a new area of focus in June of 2020. And Rotary supports, now the policy statement is that Rotary supports activities that strengthen the conservation and protection of natural resources, advance environmental sustainability, and foster harmony between people and the environment. The interesting thing about that, it's a really broad statement, and there's a lot of things that we can do underneath that banner. Some of the areas of focus that the board has looked at in its further definition of our activities here, they've targeted protecting and restoring land, coastal, marine, and freshwater resources, strengthening the resilience of ecosystems and communities affected by climate change, supporting agroecology and sustainable agriculture, fishing, and aquaculture, addressing the causes of climate change and climate disruption and supporting solutions to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, enhancing the capacity of communities and local governments to support natural resource management and conservation. And the other thing, which is a really big one, is understanding and helping manage environmental justice issues. Rotary is very much adopting a very proactive policy on DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, and environmental issues come very much into play there, because often it's those who are not as fortunate, those who live in areas that are affected by a number of other issues that bear the impact of climate issues and pollution and the impact of facilities around them, which make it difficult to live in a particular area. So all of these play into what we're already doing as Rotarians. So Rotary's asked us to do a couple of things. They've asked us to set up a district environmental committee, and the purpose of that committee is to champion supporting the environment and environmental sustainability. And our job as a district environmental committee is to help get you guys as club members excited to undertake projects in the club, in the community, and inspire both your members and community members to become active in environmental issues. Our role is also to help and train, advise, and measure our impact. And this is one thing that Rotary is getting very active about, is measuring our impact. How many hours, how many dollars, what did we do, how many people did we help? And most importantly, is it sustainable? Is it something that can continue on and continue serving people? So we want to engage and motivate and empower. And then we also want to identify and support partnership opportunities. There's so many organizations out there. There's the Sierra Club, there's Mass 350. For the kids, there's the Sunrise Movement. For the real activists, there's Extinction Rebellion. There's 100 organizations out there. We don't need to reinvent the wheel. We need to reach out to them, partner them, see what they're doing, and bring our skills to them. Because what are we good at? We're good at event management, we're good at logistics, we're good at fundraising, we're good at all of the things the environmental people need to do. So there's a real opportunity for partnership. When we talk about the club, we'd like to see clubs also implement an environmental committee and really carry on the same kind of mission that the district environmental committee does. And become a champion in your community, inspire your members, inspire your neighbors to go out and do things to help mitigate climate change and to help protect themselves against the effects of what we know is going to be coming. So a couple of things. What's going on in the Rotary world as far as environmental movements go? There's an organization called SRAG, ESRAG. And I apologize for, this is where the slides come in handy. And it's srag.org. I can send all of this stuff to Steve and he can distribute it so you have these resources. But SRAG is the Environmental Sustainability Rotary Action Group. It's one of 20 some odd action groups or 30 action groups within Rotary. Technically, action groups are not Rotary, they're separate organizations. And in this case, SRAG is really beginning to pick up steam. There's well over 1,000 members throughout Rotary. We have a Northeast chapter. We have about 280 members, something like that, in that chapter, which is the districts from about Washington, D.C. on up. And we meet regularly as a chapter. We had a meeting this past Monday night, and the interesting thing about SRAG is it attracted an incredible cadre of talented people into its membership. There's the guy who was just chairman, a guy named Dr. Chris Puddock, is a biologist and out of Maryland, and the depth of his scientific technical knowledge is unbelievable, and he's just one of them. There's dozens of Chris's within SRAG. There's a guy I met just last night. He's a past Rotary International Director named Sam Hancock. He runs a TV thing called the Emerald Planet, which I'm sure somebody in this room has heard of the Emerald Planet. It's huge. I mean, and this guy is a Rotarian. So we've got some really powerful, really big resources available to us. And the whole purpose of SRAG is to flow that knowledge down into districts, into clubs, so that we can then go out and execute projects. One of the areas that SRAG is concentrating on right now is funding and developing projects to restore mangrove forests. Mangroves are coastal plants. We don't see them a lot up here, or ever up here, but where they do grow, they protect the environment, they protect species from their habitats, and unfortunately there's been a lot of deforestation, so SRAG is looking into funding. Why did they choose that? It's easy. We know how to do it, and we know we can have an impact. Those are the kinds of things that we're looking to do. If you get a chance to go to the SRAG website, esrag.org, there's a projects page there. You can look at the projects that both SRAG and clubs are involved in. There's also an I Fix the Planet video contest, which is really cool. They ran that last year. They're going to run it again this year. And what that is clubs and anybody actually can submit I think last year it was 90 seconds, but a short video about what they're doing for projects in their community. And some of them are fascinating. They're fun to watch. And a lot of them are done by kids, by youth, by Interact, by Rotaract. So it's well worth taking a look at. There's another network within Rotary. That's this one. This is the Rotary Climate Action Team. And this is really one of those things that got started in Rotary because one guy had a vision and took it forward. And it's a guy named John Mathers. He's out of the Bay Area. And his heritage, which I've known the guy virtually for a year and a half, and just 2 weeks ago I learned that his grandparents' name happened to be Audubon. So he's got a connection. And so what he's done is he's put together a team of people that do presentations. And if you go to RCATNow, RCATNOW.com, that's their website. They have a library of technical presentations on environmental issues that's absolutely fabulous. I mean, the folks that they have in talking to anybody, you know, because they do this every, I think it's the third Thursday of the month. Anybody can attend these, and their subjects range everything from biodiversity to plastics to recycling. And what's really cool is you really get the truth out of these people. They know what they're talking about. There's no industry spin on it. So it's really an excellent resource. So a couple of things that people are doing. There's a thing out there called the Global Climate Pledge, which A number of clubs, if I look at this, I think it says 285 clubs have already signed it, and I'll send Steve the information on this. Basically, it's just a commitment that says we're going to do something about the environment. It doesn't have to be specific. It doesn't tie your hands to anything. It's a tool to raise awareness. There's another thing that we're involved with called Operation Pollination. Operation Pollination is run by a guy named Chris Stein out of the National Park Service, and he's somewhere in the middle of the country. But he's connected to what are called national heritage sites throughout the country. And here in Massachusetts, we have 5 or 6 of them. The biggest and best known is the Blackstone Valley Corridor. And these are all national parks. They're managed by the National Park Service. And what Operation Pollination is, it's an effort to raise awareness of the importance of pollinators and pollinator habitats, the crisis that they're in, because they are, and the effect that that's going to have on us, through food and propagation of plants and other vegetation. Operation Pollination is looking for partners to connect to the national heritage sites, but more importantly, it's also developed a number of programs and resources and collateral that you can use locally to help educate people about the need for pollinators, what to do to preserve them, how to plant a pollinator garden, and the things that you need to do to help maintain the health of the species. And the other thing that's great about Operation Pollination is it's relatively easy. You find a field and you go take care of it. And any club can do it. But it's also really important and it's really impactful. So that's kind of the idea of what we're trying to do, is to talk about what people can do either in clubs or on their own. And we get this question all the time. I've wondered about it. I'm just one person. What can I do? Well, I brought along a couple of pieces of paper here I'll hand out, and 2 of these talk about, and I'll do this afterwards, but 2 of these talk about 20 things you can do to fight climate change. So things you can do on your own in your house, or with your daily habits. And then the other one talks about things you can do to adapt. So, it's already started to get hot, the rains are increasing. What am I going to do in my own house? What am I going to do in my community? And there's a list of about 50 of these on each of this piece of paper. And we're not going to do all of them. Nobody's going to do that. But the idea is that if you take some action, then and 2 or 3 billion other people take the same small action, it all adds up and it becomes significant. One other thing that you can do is and there's a number of these out there, is you can calculate your own carbon footprint. And you can, there's a number of calculators out there. I have an example of one of them here. You input information about your living style. So you input information about your house. The one I put in here this morning asks 4 or 5 questions. What kind of heat do you use? How many square feet? Then you put in information about your transportation. How many miles a year do you drive? What kind of car? And then you put in information about your travel. How many flights do you take and all of that? And it totals up your carbon impact, figures out how much carbon you put into the air. And I used my own circumstances on this one, and I ended up with a total carbon contribution of 39.45 tons, or 40 tons of CO2 over the course of the year, 80,000 pounds.
That's your own household?
That's me, my own household. And we're 2 people. We live in a small house. We're relatively conservative. So this gives you an idea of where you stand with your carbon contribution. And I get this electric bill every month, where am I related to my neighbors and, my top 20% most efficient, whatever it is. And this correlates to that. The other thing that it does is it assigns a cost. So it also is telling me that for my 80,000 pounds of carbon dioxide, it would cost $61 a month to offset that. So it assigns real value to the impact that we have as people. And again, an awareness tool, something you can use to demonstrate and motivate. So a couple of last things to conclude and wrap up, so we can eat lunch. A couple of things, upcoming events. My club, the Rotary Club of Westborough, is having an energy fair on April 30th. The reason why I share that with you is not so much for you to come as a consumer, but I've watched the planning on this purposely from my perspective as environmental chair, and the fellow that's put this together, Sherrod, along with Sustainable Westborough, which is the town's climate action plan committee, have put together a tremendous program that includes exhibitors, speakers, and the thing that really has my interest, and I'm dying to see how it turns out, is we have a couple of student presentations who are going to talk about what climate change means to them as young people. To me, there's nothing more motivating than hearing how we're impacting the lives of future generations. So that's coming up. Boston Green Fest is a well-known environmental event which happens in August 19th through the 21st. We're working with the organizers of Boston Green Fest to have a presence there as Rotary. We're not sure what that looks like yet. It may simply be Rotarians in Rotary at Work t-shirts carrying water bottles around for people, but we're looking to maybe have a more active presence in that, and those are meetings that are happening now. And then in September, on September 18th, along with the Northborough Apple Fest, there's a program called the Solar Jazz Festival. That's SOULAR, and that's run by a group that believes in tying music and environmental issues together. They've been doing this for a number of years now. Sue Peghiny is my co-chair on this committee, is a really good friend with the organizer, so we're working with him to help publicize this year event, make it bigger, and actually hopefully develop enough fundraising for him that they can meet their goal of getting an entire event stage, a solar-powered event stage for it. So those are things that are going to be coming up quickly. The other thing that we're looking for is we're looking for people interested in working on the committee with us to help educate clubs, develop more awareness. And the third thing is that, and we'll be announcing this at our upcoming district convention, I got to get a commercial in there for that too, on May 6th, I think it is, Friday, May 6th. We'll be announcing a series of awards for clubs next year who participate and achieve various environmental milestones. So there's a lot happening. We'd love your participation. We'd love to help you implement a committee and work in the community in this area, and we have lots of resources to do that. So that's all I've got to say. They tell me in salesman school this is when I should shut up and take questions. So yes.
Any questions?
Clubs who come up with environmental projects, those projects would be eligible for district grants?
Yeah, oh, absolutely, yes. Thank you for that. So one of the big things about environmental sustainability becoming an area of focus is it opens up grant money and it opens up expertise that previously wasn't available. We had to hide the environmental projects in water and sanitation or disease prevention or something like that before. Now we actually have a home for them and they can be funded by RI. So yes, we will be issuing grants.
What do you say to people who think that human beings are not a major source of extreme climate change, or as other people call it, global warming?
Here, can I give you your payment for that question now? It's a really good question, and You know, the answer that we've come up with it for that is it doesn't matter. I'm not going to argue with anybody whether humans are causing climate change or whether, you know, elephants are causing climate change. Climate change is here. It's happening. The science is such that the predictions are solid. I mean, we know what's going to happen. There's no magic there. So we just say, you know, climate change is here. It's going to happen. We need to deal with it, and we don't need to know how it got here. It's here.
Right.
Yeah.
Deal with it.
You deal with it, right? And to that end, we do. You know, every time I send out an email about a meeting or, you know, something, invariably one of our, you know, 1,300 members writes us back and says we shouldn't be doing this. It's political. If you talk to Barry Rassin, and if you talk to Ian Risley, the two presidents who really pushed the adoption of the environmental area of focus, they'll tell you that there's nothing political about environmental sustainability and that Rotary needs to be there. So that's our answer.
Can it be politicized? Is that one of the risks or dangers you have to watch out for?
Oh, yes, sure. It can be politicized. You know, because if you know, and the other thing is, the other reason to connect with other organizations that are in the environmental business is, if you look at, like, you know, Sierra Club and particularly Citizens Climate Lobby, they are political organizations. Their mandate is to elect people that support environmental policies. We can support those organizations without becoming political ourselves. So that's, you know, that's a reason for partnering with them. We execute projects and we help them deliver their message, but we don't necessarily have to get into the middle of the politics.
Any other questions, comments?
We have the date of the event where the teenagers, the high school students, the younger folks are presenting. What is that event again, that date?
Sure, that's the Westborough Club's Energy Fair, April 30th. From 1 to 5, and I'll send Steve information. Actually, I have flyers, so I'll get those out too. So,
Thank you.
thank you. No other questions? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Big round of applause for Elliott. Thank you very much.